Hello and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at HRE full feudal aggression. We're going to be utilizing the Meinwerk palace with the upgrade advantages that it provides us to have quicker, fast-paced games, and those games will be ended in the feudal age. This is not a build that looks to go castle or imperial, although you can certainly still do so. It is not the purpose of the build. This build doesn't use Chapel, it uses Meinwerk, and so it is very different to how you would usually play HRE normally. Think of it more as playing aggressive with French or with a similar civ like Jeanne. We are going to be using a build that is linked down in the description below, and you can use that as well to find the splits and the timings and what units to go for, what upgrades to go for, and the buildings you should go for. All right, let's get into it. The first thing you want to be doing is you want to be sending your scout forward, queuing villagers. You want to take 3 of your vills to build mining camp and a house. 1 builds the house, 2 builds the mining camp. If you want to be fully optimized here, halfway through the mining camp construction, you can pull 1 of the villagers over to the gold. That will sync them up, and so you will start to have gold collection earlier. You're going to be rallying to food until you can age up, and then you want to try to time with the construction here and the prelate inspiration buff expiring, as it is right now, with the new round of inspiration from the prelate, so that you get a faster timing. Here we're going to be able to age up at about 2 minutes, though if you are not as effective, it's going to be more like 2 minutes and 5, 2 minutes and 8 seconds. So you're going to be looking for that fast age up. We are still running to food here, and we'll continue to do so until we can age up. Here I'm moving my prelate, going to inspire the villagers, and then I'm going back again to my food vills. And a prelate can inspire a total of 8 villagers at a time, so once you approach that 8 villager mark, there's no point in moving your prelate because you won't get any more effectiveness out of him. In terms of sheep, because you are inspiring your food, you have to know that you will also run out of sheep a little bit earlier. So therefore, get back with sheep as soon as possible. Typically you want to be back with sheep at around 2 minutes. 1 minute and 50 seconds can also be great, because then you can ensure that you don't run out of sheep. We are now 1:45 in. At about 2 minutes we will drop off all of our resources. We will take a look at the gold. Once it's below 3,800 gold, you will be able to get your food dropped off, your gold dropped off, and then you can age up immediately. You will age up with 3 gold vills and 1 food villager. So I just did my drop off here. I'm going to build my Meinwerk. I could build it at the gold, and I would recommend you do so. Here I just build it in the front of my base. Put 1 food vill, 3 gold vills. The splits are, of course, as I said before, detailed in the build order. That is linked in the description, so you can see it in more detail. But basically what you want to do is you want to have 3 on food, 4 aging up, and then you want to have the prelate close to the food vills so that they are gathering enough food, and then 6 on wood. Then after you've gotten the 6 on wood, you want to go and rally back to food until you have 10 on food. Then you rally back to wood after, and keep it about 50-50 in terms of your splits. That's going to allow you to give you about a constant production of horsemen and archers. And then later you're going to be sinking your economy in terms of what units you're going for. So that varies depending on what type of units your opponents are going for. So I'm just going to speed it up a little bit here. We're gathering from the straggler trees, and it's important that you gather from the straggler trees first, because if you don't, then you will not have the wood to immediately produce those production buildings. Our scout is now checking out our opponent's base. Typically you want to scout your opponent between 3 and 4 minutes. It's going to give you some good information about what your opponent could be looking to do. For example, if they were fast castling, you would see typically 3+ vills on gold now, and you would see a primary vill split on food. Whereas if you saw somebody was going for a second TC quickly, you would see them on stone and wood right now. Here we scout that he's going for military wing, and we scout that he is probably going to be going aggressive with that. We didn't scout his stone here, but that is also something you could be looking for. In terms of production buildings, you also want to check your opponent. Is he going to drop some production? And if he is, then you can respond accordingly. Currently, we're building the stable and the archer range, and the stable and archer range are built by 2 of the landmark vills that would go to gold. They go to gold after they've constructed these 2 buildings. Again, the split is as follows: 10-6-2 right now. Here I see the military units come forward. He's building a stable and an archer range. So I already know that he's trying to disrupt my castle age. So most HRE players will go for castle age. What is happening here is he doesn't know that I'm going to go for this aggression. Therefore, if he's trying to win this game by shutting down my gold, for example, he will not be able to do so because our military will be stronger. So when you see somebody's moving forward with units like this, and you don't quite have enough units yourself, just stack up in your own base, wait for them to come to you, and then once you have enough units, you can use your defensive advantage and then go and push him. We drop off our food, and then we have a lumber camp constructed after we've collected all of our straggler trees. We are rallying to wood right now. And then whenever it's possible for us, we're going to be going for upgrades. Recommend going for the archer upgrades as soon as possible. Always go for ranged first. Get ranged attack, then ranged armor. And then you can go for riveted chainmail. Then later on, go for the melee ones. Currently producing archers and horsemen constantly. You want to produce these units constantly, because if you don't, then you're banking food. And if you can't produce them constantly, then you must be stacking food, because you want to be able to pretty much do that all the time. There's some idle time on my archer range right now, and I'm just looking to fix that through putting my prelate on the wood and just rallying wood. So I have 11 on wood right now. Now I'm rallying back to food, and then I'm going to move my prelate back to food after as well. Again, these are details and not something that is insanely important, but these are small macro tips, such as moving the prelate. We are now scouting our opponent again. We see that there's a second stable. This means that we have to go for barrack. If there was only one stable, we could justify going for another archer range or another stable ourselves, but it's always safest to go for a 1-1-1 comp in this situation. Just know that if you're going for spearmen very early and you are not building horsemen and archers, there is the potential of you just getting sniped. Your spearmen would get sniped, and then it's going to be very difficult for you to fight. We're getting our ranged armor now. We already have our +1 ranged attack. This means that already now we are getting a tech advantage because he's not building a blacksmith currently. It's very typical that people don't build a blacksmith until 8 or 10 minutes into the game. And that is the point where we're looking for a fight. We're looking for a little bit of a raid here, just coming around the wood line. We're not looking to dive any wood lines. Again, he's making units, so we don't want to lose units unnecessarily. We want him to come out and fight us. So we're going to try to provoke him to do that. Because even now, he's committing to units, which means that he is looking for a fight at some point. Now the barracks has been added. We're getting riveted chainmail, and I'm building spears and getting hardened upgrade afterwards. Here I lose my scout. If you lose your scout, just try to rebuild it as fast as possible. So as you can see here, I have recruited the scout in the stable. Let's say you were playing a civ that would not have a stable, then you would obviously build the scout from the TC. It's very important that you always have a scout, because if you don't have scouting information, then you lose the game most likely. Because if they know what you're doing, you don't know what they're doing, then you have a big issue. They can counter you, you can't counter them. Scout goes forward. Use your horsemen to raid. Don't go too deep in. Here I saw you had an army, and so we're just going to go back again. We're just looking to provoke. Him building walls is already a good sign, because this is unnecessary wood that's spent on walls. Again, he's making full units, so if he's making walls as well, that's just a sign that he's spending resources on things that he doesn't need. We see that there's a second archer range now. We can look to push the woodline a little bit, get a little bit of idle time in. We see that his main army is around the back here, and so that means that we can move our main army front, because he's not going to be harassing us. He might be harassing us, but he's not doing that currently. We're now getting some eco upgrades as well. We're getting survival techniques, because I want to go to the deer, as you can see here. And then I'm getting double broadaxe into forestry. You can get these upgrades earlier if your opponent is not playing as aggressively. And so you would prioritize them over the melee armor. And you would also put another 1 or 2 villages on gold, depending on how quick you want those upgrades. Typically, if your opponent isn't full producing units, like our opponent is here, we would be getting those upgrades earlier. because it allows us to scale better. And if somebody's playing 2DC or Fast Castle, we can stay economically in a better position for a longer time. We see he has a ton of horsemen. We have about 6 spearmen here, so it's not necessarily a very good position. But then I check his upgrades and I see he has no blacksmith upgrades. We have pretty much all of our blacksmith upgrades besides the melee ones. And so this means that when we take a fight, it's going to be really good for us due to riveted chainmail giving us +2 melee armor. So in this situation, even if we don't have these, because of riveted chainmail, we are already taking 2 less damage from all the horsemen. And so through positioning your army correctly, you will be able to save your archers, have your horsemen and spearmen body block the rest of it. If your opponent wasn't playing cavalry, you would, instead of the barracks, have a second archer range, and then you would be running with a majority of archers instead to take out spearmen and archers. Again, it all depends on what kind of game you're in, and it's really just a matter of what units counter the most units. So if your opponent is playing only spearmen horsemen, it would be better if you had a lot of spearmen. If they're playing only archers and horsemen, for some time horsemen only can work. And if they're playing spearmen archers, archers can work really well too. So here I'm just trying to provoke him to come out to me. I really, really want him to fight me right now because this is a timing. Having this upgrade advantage makes my units so much more effective. And it makes it so that I can take these fights that are otherwise pretty risky. Again, I have right about 40 units here, and he has a similar unit count. We have 8 spearmen, and we're keeping them in between our archers and horsemen. We don't want them to come forward because he has archers targeting them. So the spearmen don't come in first. They just stay in the middle, because if they get sniped, then his massive horsemen will be a big issue. Though we have a lot of melee upgrades through the riveted chainmail, it's going to be not as bad as it would normally. So this fight actually turns out to be pretty good for us. Our archers are just sniping down the spearmen, and then they're just A-moved for the rest of it. Here we see as a camel archer as well. That is also something you could go for. So a fight here, we currently have 3 spearmen, is actually ending up being very, very good for us. And so this actually is a game-ending fight, because what I would do here is, now that I've won the game, let's say he backed off, what you would do is you would try to deny resources. You can see he's run out of food, so he's going for the deer here, and then you can start ramming down the production buildings. If he has a more defensive position, and he's playing something like English and Rus, where they typically have, or Chinese for that matter, typically more defense, what you can then do is you can go for Castle Age, look for relics, play Regnit's Cathedral, and then you can go in and upgrade all those units that you did not lose, which is a really good way to finish the game. So look for those upgrade advantages. They're incredibly cheap. Again, +2 ranged armor costs the same as normal +1 ranged armor through the Meinwerk. And so try to play those fast-paced games with this build. I want to say good luck. It's a fun build to play. And if you're not very good at aggression, this is a good build to get started. And if you find that it's a little bit difficult, focus on control groups, micro. It's all about how you position your units in these types of fights. And again, if your opponents are playing very greedy, this build will shut down anyone who's going for a second TC or a typical fast castle build. If you have any questions, let me know down in the description below. If you're interested in coaching, there will be some information about that now, and I wish you all a good day. Ciao.